The wildest part wasn't that our HOA president tried to remove the fire hydrants. It was that she did it like she was improving the neighborhood. She stood there in a blazer, arms crossed, talking about beauty while kids rode scooters nearby, and my family slept inside my house. That was when I realized this wasn't about rules anymore. It was about what happens when the wrong person gets just enough power to feel untouchable. My name's Garrison Weatherb, and in 2016 my wife Delaney and I moved into Cedarbrook Commons because it looked safe, quiet, and boring in the best way. Delaney found it first. That's her style, quiet and careful. I still remember our first week there, our dog Hector stopping to sniff the bright yellow hydrant on the corner like it mattered. For 3 years we kept to ourselves. Delaney built her landscaping business out of the garage, the kids settled into school, and I paid the HOA dues on time and forgot about them. Then Nain Colthist became board president. Nain had the energy of someone who'd been waiting a long time to manage other adults. She won in 2019 because most of us, myself included, didn't bother voting. At first it was petty stuff, new fence colors, no basketball hoops in driveways, board meetings at 2 in the afternoon on Wednesdays so nobody working could attend. Then she started targeting people. Rosalind, a widow in her 70s, got fined over a wind chime. Cadet, a retired Army guy down the street, got cited because his American flag was a few inches too large under a rule Nain had changed without a proper vote. Then she came for me. My work van, parked in my own driveway, supposedly violated the commercial vehicle clause. I'm an engineer. I read documents for a living. I checked the CC and RS and confirmed what I already suspected. The rule applied to community property, not private driveways. I wrote Nain a calm letter, cited the paragraph, kept it factual. She answered with another fine. That was the moment something shifted in me. Not anger exactly, something colder. The feeling you get when you spot a flaw in a structure before everybody else realizes it's unstable. Around then Walt knocked on my door. Retired pipefitter, lived there forever, noticed everything, said little. He held up one of Nain's violation letters and asked, "You seeing what's happening here?" The hydrant fight started as one of Nain's aesthetic crusades. The city sent its routine annual notice, saying several hydrants were due for inspection and touch-up paint. Nain turned it into a board initiative. She actually presented mock-ups, showing how much prettier the streets would look if the bright yellow hydrants were painted taupe. Emergency infrastructure, rebranded like home decor. By then I'd already started pulling public records. What I found was simple. The hydrants were city property. Always had been. The HOA had no authority to paint, move, block, or interfere with them. I brought that information to the next board meeting with a dozen neighbors behind me. I laid everything out clearly. Nain gave me that icy little smile and said the board would take my concerns under advisement. They didn't. Instead, she hired an outside management company with HOA money and pushed harder. That's when I met Doris Granger, a title attorney with bifocals, a red pen, and no patience for people who don't read contracts. She reviewed my binder in silence, then gave me 3 things that changed the fight. Nain had been using reserve funds to pay the management company. The flag rule she'd enforced against Cadet was invalid because it never went through the required membership vote, and buried in the original community documents was a clause flatly prohibiting the HOA from impeding, relocating, or decommissioning municipal fire suppression infrastructure without written city approval. The same documents Nain used to bully people were the same documents forbidding her from touching those hydrants. I brought Doris's summary and a resident petition to the next meeting. Nain rejected all of it and claimed the board had legal advice of its own, which turned out to be laughably thin. That night Delaney set a mug of dark coffee beside my desk, looked at the growing stack of binders, and said, "So this is bigger than the van." By September, 63 residents packed into the clubhouse. Then Walt stood up and asked one question that changed the whole room. How much did the new podium cost? Reserve funds, of course. During recess, one of Nain's allies on the board, Prescott, quietly admitted he hadn't known about the hydrant clause when he voted. Still, Nain kept going. She announced that the board had already sent payment to the city to decommission 2 hydrants. She had used HOA money to ask the city to remove fire hydrants from her own neighborhood. The twist that blew the whole thing open came from Walt's garage. He had an old accordion folder from when he bought his house, and inside it was the original performance bond agreement between the developer and the city. I read it standing over his workbench and felt the ground shift. The bond guaranteed that the neighborhood's infrastructure, including all 6 hydrants, would remain fully operational for 25 years. If the HOA caused even one hydrant to be removed before that period ended, the association could trigger a $280,000 breach. Not a warning. A financial bomb. Nain had been marching straight toward it with our money in her hand, and no idea it existed. After that, the fight changed. Doris handled the legal side. We filed complaints, forced a special meeting petition, and brought in a CPA who found more undocumented expenses. Walt started hosting kitchen meetings where neighbors sat around tables with copies of the governing documents. The question got simpler every week. Do you want your neighborhood back? Then Nain panicked. Threat letters went out. Bogus fines piled up against me. The HOA Facebook page started treating my work then like a threat to civilization. A few people got nervous, but more joined us. Then I found a line in the board minutes about a contractor coordinating landscape modification around hydrant sites. I called Deputy Chief Marcus at the Davenport Fire Department and asked what would happen if someone actually tried to remove one. He didn't hesitate. Stop work order, possible charges, city attorneys. A week before the special meeting, Walt texted me at 6:30 in the morning. They're here. I drove straight to the corner and found a truck, a trailer, 2 contractors, and hydrant N2 standing there in its ridiculous taupe paint. I asked what they were doing. One of them said, landscape modification. I asked whether that included the hydrant. He looked at the paperwork and didn't answer fast enough. I called Marcus, then Walt, then Doris, and then I stood there and waited. I explained calmly that the hydrant was city property, that the HOA had no authority over it, that a performance bond made interference a $280,000 liability event, and that a deputy fire chief was already on the way. One contractor made a call, listened for a moment, then said the line I still enjoy remembering. Lady, I'm not losing my license over a flower bed. They packed up and left. Marcus arrived, photographed the disturbed ground, filed the report, and within hours the city sought an emergency injunction. The contractor handed over the work order, and there it was in black and white. Remove and cap hydrant assembly N2. Suddenly Nain's little private empire was out in daylight where it couldn't survive. By the time the special meeting came around, 143 residents showed up. The clubhouse was overflowing. Doris had a banker's box full of evidence. Deputy Chief Marcus sat in the 3rd row. Delaney sat where I could see her, calm as ever. Doris explained the legal basis for the meeting. Then I stood up and told the room exactly what had happened, that the board had nearly exposed every family in Cedarbrook Commons to massive liability because one woman decided she didn't like the color of fire hydrants. The room went still. Then Prescott stood up. That was the moment everything turned. He admitted he hadn't known about the key clause. He admitted he hadn't known about the bond. He apologized to the neighborhood for the votes he'd cast without full information. It wasn't polished, but it was honest, and honesty landed hard in that room. The vote wasn't close. 139 in favor of removing the board. 4 against. 1 abstention. Nain sat there while the count was read, and for the first time she looked small. Not because anybody screamed at her, but because accountability had finally shown up. She left without saying a word. After that, the rest unraveled fast. The state got involved. The bogus management contract collapsed. The hydrants were restored to proper yellow. Nain resigned, then moved away. And then came the part that still gets me. A few months later, a badly installed space heater in the clubhouse sparked a fire. Flames got into the walls and then the roof. The fire department arrived fast, stretched hose, and connected to hydrant N2, the same hydrant Nain had tried to remove, the same one standing there that freezing morning while a contractor packed up and drove away. The water came up hard and immediate, exactly the way it was supposed to. The clubhouse was a total loss. The homes around it were not. That night Walt texted me, "Good thing we kept the hydrants." I stood at my kitchen window reading that in the dark, and what hit me wasn't victory exactly. It was something quieter. Most disasters don't start with monsters. They start with ordinary people deciding safety is inconvenient, that keeping the peace matters more than speaking up. And when decent people stay quiet too long, controlling people hear permission. That was the lesson for me. Justice doesn't show up by magic. Sometimes the real difference between disaster and survival is just one person finally saying, "No, that's far enough." These days Cedarbrook Commons is calmer. The new board is boring in the best possible way. The old clubhouse site became a park. Hector's gray around the muzzle now, but every morning he still walks with me past that bright yellow hydrant on the corner. Still there. Still solid. Still doing the job it was built to do. And every time I pass it, I think the same thing. Some things are worth fighting for before they turn into a lesson somebody has to learn the hard way. So here's what still nags at me. When somebody in power claims they're improving a community while gambling with other people's safety, money, and voice, how long does staying polite count as being reasonable, and when does it become part of the problem? If you want, I can do one more pass to make it even more cinematic and punchier for voiceover delivery.